So in today's video, I am bringing you some makeovers. Not only am I going to take you on my journey to Dollar General's and to Hobby Lobby clearance, that I just happened to be looking for something and I was lucky enough that they still had some clearance items. So I thought I would take you along. I got a lot of response from our last Dollar General flip video that you're like, well, I never saw those. So I'm going to take you into some of the stores that I could and show you that. And there were stores that I went into that didn't have anything, guys. So I probably left 3 Dollar Generals without anything. So to spice it up, I'm taking you into the dollar stores in the Hobby Lobby clearance area. And then I am going to share with you how I make these items over to get them ready to resell. So just my twist of what I would do to these items. So I hope you like this kind of content. Let me know. I thought it would be kind of fun. I've never done where I've taken you with me and then showed a reveal of what I've done to things before. So I thought that would be kind of fun.
So have you ever noticed that Dollar Generals aren't always really in a plaza? They may be in your little small town, but sometimes they're just out in the middle of nowhere. Just like the one I'm traveling to right now, it was just on a random find that one day I was driving to one of the Goodwills to go thrifting, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know there was a Dollar General in this neck of the woods. So I've had good luck at this Dollar General. Look at right off the bat, they have some of those dollar birds, but I have plenty of those birds right now, so I'll leave them for someone else. I'm just kind of looking at what decor they might have gotten in. Oh, I do like these chair pads, especially for this $5 price tag. Now they usually do have a lot of nice baskets. So the stores that I'm visiting are in like an hour radius of where I live. Just a circle of coming back from going thrifting and then coming back home. I just take a different direction home. But their inventory is definitely a lot different from store to store. They definitely have some nice throw blankets. Some of them are made really well and are very heavy, and I don't think that's a bad price at all. Or these throw pillows, oh my gosh, they're nice. So while I was out doing my Dollar General and thrifting tours, I actually needed to go and get some air dry clay from Hobby Lobby to see if they had any available, and I lucked out that they still had a couple aisles that still had 66% off clearance. So of course I had to go in and take a gander to see if there was anything that I could make over. So this is all that I brought home from the Dollar General. Some of the items I've actually purchased before, and then some of the items are new for me purchasing, and some I won't even do anything to and see how it goes. So I was happy to run across some more of these bee containers. So far in the past, they have sold really well for me, and I actually didn't know there was 2 different sizes. I'd always only ever found the $5 one. And I leave them as is, and people have been happy with them. And as you see, these risers need a little bit of help, and actually the manager was the one waiting on me, and he actually gave me $1 off because they were broken, and he said that super glue cost $1, so that would be good enough to fix it. And I absolutely already loved just the simplicity of the color of this home, so I will leave this one as is. And I've actually done these little teal bird cages before. I've done them in black. Anything with a bird on it usually does really well for me. And then finding that little olive branch and another piece of lamb's ear for $1 and $2 was just a nice little find. And I couldn't help myself when it came to this little $1 chicken wire chicken cup. And then this cute little family sign, I liked that also. And then we have these metal risers that I definitely can paint. And those thankful signs, well, it's getting to be the holiday. So I was pretty happy with what I found at Hobby Lobby. I definitely was blessed to be able to run across. It had been weeks ago when people were saying that it was a 66% off sale. Now it's funny because I know that I have actually looked at these black baskets before, these tobacco baskets. So to find them on clearance, I thought was a great find. And then along with just these metal riser bottoms, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that was in the barbecue section. And then we have this beautiful wood base riser also. I know that I can take that epoxy off the top and then just that nice wood of these simple trays. I was actually super excited to run across these wooden balls because I actually have an idea in my head that I would have been looking for these anyway when I was thrifting. And then I just thought this little jug was just as cute as could be, just as is. Now that we've toured, you've seen my haul, let's get these items flipped. So the first thing I'm going to do, of course, if you're a regular to my channel, you know I'm going to be removing all the tags, any price tags, any store tags. And for this bird cage, I'm not really a fan of the little votive holder that it's got going on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen up the loop that is keeping that in place, and I'm going to remove it. Well, and even though the super glue or the CA glue that we use to fix items doesn't cost $1, but that's okay. He gave me $1 off on both of these for them being broken. So I'll take that. That was very nice of him. I wasn't even going to ask it because I knew that I could fix it. So yep, just going in with some Starbond CA glue in the medium to glue those back down. If you have not seen CA glue, oh my goodness, this is just anybody needs this in their house, because what you do is you use a little bit of that glue, you hold the item down, and then you use this spray activator, and then 15 seconds you hold it, and it is good in on there. Just go ahead and work all the way around, making sure that everything is attached and glued down properly. So I absolutely love the color of this wood. I think it's not too golden, not too walnutty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with some Dollar General 2-inch masking tape and protect that. I'm going to leave that wood as is. But I'm not really a fan of the tile work. It's just almost just a piece of paper, so I'm not too sad about covering that up. Remember, I got it in the clearance area, but I am going to save this wood. Then I'm going to go ahead and protect the bottom of these metal little risers. They have that nice velvet, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut some of this tape off and then just cut around to the circle, so when I'm spraying these pieces, I don't get any on that bottom. As I'm editing this, I don't know if you guys ever really saw the top of this. So yes, I'm going to go in with our really good sandpaper, the 80 grit sandpaper. This is an epoxy paper. We have kind of done these before, and I'm not sad about taking it off, because when we've done them before, it's because they are thrifted items and they've been cracked and they've been chipped. So I'm good with removing it. Remember, yet again, this was a clearance item, so I'm going to go in and just go to town using some real 80 grit sandpaper and just let the sander and the sandpaper do its job and remove that. Then with the power of editing, voila, I have removed all that. As I was sanding this and holding it tight, it was, oh my goodness, the base of this is so rough and raised. So I'm just going to go in with some 220 sandpaper, and I'm going to leave the bottom of this as is. It's very beautiful, but I am going to go in and sand it so it's nice and smooth. Now, just because these are new purchased goods does not mean they do not need cleaned. They have been processed, they have been handled, they have been touched. So yes, they do need cleaned. So I'm going in with some Superclean and getting all the area all prepped and ready for paint, and making sure that before I start to paint it, that it is good and dry. And I know I usually remove the base, especially off of these risers, but since I'm going to be painting the whole thing black, I did not see any need to do that. So I'm going to be spray painting these with some Rust-Oleum paint and primer in one in the flat black, and that's definitely going to be a good base. It's going to cover up that previous color, especially on these trays. When you're doing an undercoat of black, there's just something about how it richens an item up when I'm painting. Even though I'm painting it white and these are white, it'll just richen that white and just give it a little bit more substance. So the nice thing about spray painting things black with a flat is that you can tell when it's dry because it's not shiny anymore. So now I need to seal this black in. If I didn't seal the black in, I went to paint white, it will make a gray mucky mess. This is just a black paint. It's not sealed in with anything. So I'm going in with the Rust-Oleum, clear coat, and matte and getting it sealed in before flipping some of these items and doing the same process where I paint the black and then I seal it in on the other side. And some of them, they're only getting the one side, like these trays. Everything's got its black coating and it has been sealed in both sides. I'm going on to spray painting them. I'm using my Graco TrueCoat sprayer and I have Rust-Oleum's chalk paint and the white linen in it. Now on these baskets, I left them black. I didn't spray it in with anything. I'm not going to be distressing this piece at all, but I wanted to change it to white. Now I'm on to painting all the other items that I envision in the white. Being able to use a sprayer definitely saves you a lot of time, but I definitely could have hand painted these also. For these bird cages, that would have been no fun. All I would have done is had a lot of drips and run and had to use a really tiny brush. So yep, nope, this was my go-to and I'm very blessed that we have this. But just to show, yes, I could accomplish this. I'm going to actually hand paint this one just because of the way that the bead work is. It's going to be really hard to get the sprayer here and there and everywhere. So I'm just going to go in and hand paint this with the Rust-Oleum chalk paint in that white linen. Now for these trays, I'm just going to go ahead and paint the inside. I didn't want to spend a ton of time taping off the bottom, so that's one of the reasons I'm not using the sprayer on those. And I knew that I had some pieces that I was going to be hand painting anyway, so I'm just going in full strength with the Rust-Oleum chalk paint for the first coat. And then I like these brushes that I get at Walmart. They're just that white bristle, very soft brush. I have good luck with not getting a ton of buildup and brush strokes with these, so these have been my go-to so far. Now these metal riser bottom trays, this is why I left that bottom on, because I was just going to go in and just hand paint the top white and leave that entire bottom black. So I'm just going to go in and go ahead and do the full strength again and very gingerly trying to not get too much drips and runs. I am going to go down the side a little bit, but I'm hoping that it doesn't run underneath, but the ink Waverly chalk paint matches this Rust-Oleum perfectly if I do. It's the same thing with this beautiful tray. As you can see, this is where they covered up those nail holes. So I couldn't really, I would have had to figure out a design. Maybe I could have, but I'm just going to go ahead, and it's kind of got some funky colors going on that top. So I'm just going to go ahead and just paint just the top of this. I'm going to leave the edges, the wood if I can. Hopefully no drips or runs, but on this one I can sand them off. So I'm just going to go in full strength again using that nice brush that I like, and then get this top of this painted white. And I hope that you all that are watching that like to do things like this have found yourself a Lazy Susan, some type of a turntable, because boy does it help be able to do a 360 paint job. So for this little dollar chicken wire glass vase, we're going to call it, that I spray painted back, as you saw, I taped off that top part so that it didn't get the paint in the inside. So I'm going to go in with some elephant chalk paint. I definitely want to do, I think it has enough details that I don't need to do a texture paint on it, but just painting it into a cement look and then distressing it with some wax is definitely going to bring out all those beautiful details that were hidden with it just being clear. Oh, but there always has to be a problem child in the group, and as you see the top of this tray, it is turning my white paint a very ugly yellow color, so it's having some bleed through problems. So I'm going to go in with a product called Shellac, and what this is going to do is this is going to seal that in. So I'm going to do 2 coats, letting them dry in between 10-15 minutes, and then I should be good to go to keep that crisp white that I'm looking for. So can I tell you guys all how excited I was to run across these wooden balls? I know that probably seems a little bit weird, but when I was touring Birds Gotta Fly Vintage in Elkhart, Indiana, I absolutely loved. They had some wooden balls, some balls that were painted just a nice subtle color, and then they had stamped numbers on them, and I just have been looking to thrift items like this. So being able to find these on a clearance at Hobby Lobby just made my day. So yep, I'm going to go in and I'm going to stamp some numbers on these. I have this stamp set that I had bought off Amazon, and they're actually the perfect size for these smaller balls. There were 6 of the smaller ones and 3 of the larger ones. And as you see, I'm just using masking tape. Yep, masking tape, holding it on there, trying not to get the masking tape onto my ink pad, and then I'm going to go ahead and just stamp it right on that ball. So I'm just going to be able to attach that tape right off the bat, and then gingerly put my fingers on that number 1, and then gently smooth all that ink, letting it transfer onto that wood. Okay, I'm even happier that that worked, because nope, I've never done that before. So now I'm going to try to guesstimate what is the exact opposite side of this round object and flip it over and do a same number, but I'm going to flip it the opposite direction. Then for the bigger balls, I'm going to go in with the IOD typesetting stamps. Those numbers are a little bit bigger, so they should be a little bit more size appropriate for these ones, but the same exact technique. And then I want to go ahead and give these balls a little bit of age. So I'm just using my watered down Waverly wax mixture, where it's just a little bit of the Waverly antiquing wax mixed with water. And so that way it's just going to make it look like these are a little bit more aged. And as you can see that they're not taken evenly, but I'm actually okay with that. I like it better that it's not taken evenly. So now that I've worked on some other projects, these are dry enough for me to flip them over and now get the other side painted up. And for the items that I hand painted going in for my second coat, what I'm going to do is I am going to dip my brush in water and then dip it in paint, or dip it in paint and then water, whichever way I remember to do it. But I need to water it down, because if I just put that straight paint on, it would start pulling away the paint. It's a little too thick. Chalk paint is made to be watered down, this one anyway, and this is the way I like to do it. So that's what I do. I just take my paint and water it down, or take my brush into the water, because sometimes I just forget which way I'm going with it. It works the same. So I'm just doing that way that it minimizes brush strokes. I'm not pulling off that previous paint, because remember, this Rust-Oleum paint, it can be water distressed. So if I put too much water or put that overly dry paint on, that thick paint on, it'll start pulling it up. Now for this one that I painted that 2 coats of shellac on, or sprayed that 2 coats of shellac on, I just go full force with that, just the first coat like I did, because there's nothing going to pull any of the previous paint off, because it's sealed in with shellac. But boy, can you tell how that really yellowed that white paint. When you put that fresh coat of white paint on, you can really tell the difference. For this other riser that I hand painted, I have to do that same thing, where I water down that paint just a little bit, dipping it in the water, or dipping the paint that's on the brush in the water, whichever way works for you. I don't seem to contaminate my paint, probably because I use a lot of paint all the time, so I'm constantly emptying one of those quarts. But this just helps give you that smooth, not pull that paint off, and get rid of those brush strokes. It really takes me 3 coats of the white paint to cover. The second and the third coat, I do that same, where I water it down, just filling in anywhere that I can see that black through. So after it's dry and set up, now I can go in and do a little bit of sanding. Now on this piece, I'm not sanding to distress. I don't want that black to show through. The black on this piece was covering up what the colors were underneath. So I'm just going in with some sandpaper and making sure that I have a nice smooth surface. Then now I'm going to go in and remove that tape, but I'm going to run an X-Acto knife around the entire edge, just making sure, so when I go to pull that tape off, that I'm not pulling some of that that paint off in the middle there. So I don't know if that's all happened to you, but yep, a life lesson learned that's happened to me. So I take the time to take an X-Acto knife where it's kind of glued the paint and the tape together. And when I picked these trays up, I knew exactly right off the bat what I wanted to do with them. I have these wonderful IOD sunflower stamps that I am just as obsessed with right now on finding items to use them on. And I knew that these trays would be the perfect pieces for it. So I'm just going in and I'm going to be stamping on some tissue paper. And I want that black to really be seen on the tissue paper, so I did re-ink my Stays On ink pad with IOD ink. I'm not sure if I should not do that, but hey, I was ordering, and that's the ink that I got. So if you're wondering what the grid that I am using is, it is called a thin mount. So what it does is it helps you be able to hold your big stamps like this and then be able to press them down, and then it has that nice grid pattern, which I don't really need at the moment. But what I'm doing here is I'm just taking my Cricut scraping tool and very gingerly rubbing it on there and making sure that I get all that image transferred down on this tissue paper. And then I'm on my Cricut mat that has the grid pattern, but that little piece that's underneath there is just an extra piece of vellum. That way that I'm not stamping directly onto my Cricut mat, because that stays on, that even that IOD ink doesn't want to come off of it, so I need to protect my mat. So I'm going to be doing the smaller sunflower and then the larger sunflower, also doing the 2 on both of those trays. Now, since tissue paper doesn't really like to cut too awful well, I have learned that taking a paintbrush in a little bit of water and then just kind of outlining the item that you would like to get cut out of the tissue paper. So I'm just going around and wetting that. And then what will happen is after I get that all done, I can go in and then just gingerly pull on that tissue paper where it was wet, and it then tears it. So it's nice because it makes kind of jagged edges. So when you go to glue it, or we're going to be Mod Podging it onto the trays, it blends in nicely. It's not nice. It's not thick. Now you can see my reasoning for stamping this on tissue paper. Nope, they were not going to exactly fit. So that's the nice thing about tissue paper is, yeah, you can cut it down to the size that you need. So I'm not going to cut it at first. I'm going to get it Mod Podge down. So I'm going to start right off in one of the corners and start laying a thin layer of Mod Podge. And then I'm going to kind of remember where I was with my placement and then gingerly work from that center point of that sunflower into the corner. So when I get into that corner, I'm going to go ahead and take some scissors or release that pressure that's in the corner. That way that I can make a nice tight fit running my fingernails along the side. And then I can put some more Mod Podge and work my way out. So I am going to go in and put another layer of Mod Podge on the top. I'm going to make sure that my edges are nice and secure first before doing that, because I don't want to accidentally start pulling it away from those corners. So I'm going to do the exact same thing to the smaller sunflower, but the same thing, I'm not going to necessarily have it fill in that whole space. That whole sunflower is not going to be there, but this is going to be the same process. And then after I get it Mod Podge on, I'm not going to cut that excess off until it dries. I don't want to take the chance of pulling that tissue paper away from that corner. I want it to stay exactly where it is, and then I'll cut it off after it dries. So now I'm going to go to that metal bottom riser. So I'm going to be using this medallion Waverly stencil that I purchased at Walmart. And it's almost the exact fit. So my plan is, as you see where I'm pointing right now, there's some little dots. And so I'm just going to go in and I'm going to tape them off. That way, when I'm stenciling, doing my stencil painting, I don't accidentally go into those. Yes, I could have left them, but there would have been to me, it would have been pleasing to my eye. So you always do what's pleasing to your own eye. So I'm just going to go in with some masking tape and tape those off. So for my paint color choice, I'm kind of going with that cottage core feel on these items that I'm making over. So I'm not going to be doing any gray, black, that. So I'm going to go in with truffle. So I have the Waverly truffle chalk paint. I have one of these stencil brushes from the dollar store. They work for a couple times, but boy, do those bristles fall out. So I do need to invest in a nicer brush. So what I'm doing is that dry technique where there's very little paint on this brush, and I'm going to go in and do a swirl pattern. So I really look to see where those dots were, that I'm all even on all the sides, and then going in very slowly, making sure that I'm holding onto that stencil, that it's not shifting as I'm swirling. Now for this small little metal riser, I actually have this little medallion. This is one that I had gotten at Joann's, but unfortunately it does not fit. So I'm going to cut it to fit. Isn't that what we do? If I want to use it and I don't want to have the chances of it pulling up, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it to fit. So I felt as if I was cutting it pretty even, that it was going to be centered, but I just wanted to check my measurements before taping it down. Now for this one, I'm going to use the mineral, just a light tan color. And then just doing that same technique, I'm going to do the swirling technique with just a little dry brush, just a little paint on that. So now I'm going to be using that same mineral paint color to do some grain sack stripes on the top. I just really think that beautiful wood underneath, that this will just not take away from that beautiful wood. Just a little bit of an accent on the top, but still draws you into that bottom where that wood to me is just beautiful. And yeah, would it be a ginger chick grouping if I did not do at least one grain sack striping on something? So if you are new to grain sack striping, all you need to do is just get some masking tape. And so what I'm doing here is I have the 1/2-inch tape. I'm making smaller stripes. So I centered that right in the middle. I measured it with the ruler to make sure that it was in the center. And then you lay a piece of masking tape on both sides. And then you pull that middle piece up. And that is where your paint color is going to go, your first stripe. And so I'm going to go in with that same stencil brush and I want it just to be light, so I'm just going to do a nice swirling pattern just to give it a nice brush stroke of the color. Now for my second stripe, I'm just going to be reusing the piece of masking tape. So what I'm doing now is, because that is a regular size masking tape and that stripe underneath is a 1/2-inch stripe, and of course the masking tape regular size is a little bit bigger, so I'm just making sure that it is on the same, that one side is level with the paint stripe. That way I have a little bit of a gap of unpainted, and I'm going to take that other one and I'm going to overlap it, and it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to eyeball where that paint stripe is, and that way the same thing is going to overhang and there's going to be a space that is unpainted. And then now I'm going to take another piece of new masking tape, and I'm just going to guesstimate on what size I want my next striping to be. So, and I'm going to do that on both sides of that middle stripe. So you can make them as big, you can make them as small. That's the fun of grain sack striping. You just could make 3, you could make 5, you just keep going until it's pleasing to your eye. Now I will heavily suggest that if, like me, I'm using that chalk paint. So even though I didn't really necessarily need the blow dryer for this, the middle stripe where I had put that tape over that chalk paint, the chances of the masking tape pulling it up, yeah, that might happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I go very slowly. I'm going to help that heat of that blow dryer help activate that sticky, so hopefully I don't pull too much of that previous paint off. And nope, it didn't do too bad. So now as I'm looking at these 3 stripes going, yeah, nope, I want one more. So there again, I'm just going to basically put my tape on where the spacing that is that same smaller stripe spacing, that's going to be left unpainted, and then I'm going to eyeball yet again another striped area where I'm going to put another same about the same size as that smaller stripe on either side. And just, yep, that's the fun of grain sack striping. You just keep doing it until you love it. And I just thought that this needed a little bit more stripes. So I think we have completed all our details. So now I can go in and I can sand these pieces smooth. I just like my pieces to be nice and smooth, and so I'm getting them sanded down before sealing these in with some Rust-Oleum clear coat. But for this riser, I want to go in and get it distressed. So I'm taking a wet wipe and I'm going over that chalk paint, and what this is going to do is it's going to start wiping away some of the chalk paint. And now, yep, this riser is good and dry. I'm doing this when it's dry. I got a couple questions about that. If I do this when it's wet or I do it when it's dry, you have more control of what you're taking off. But I will say that the Rust-Oleum chalk paint very easily distresses, so I go in very gingerly, really holding that piece of wet wipe that I'm not allowing it to lay on any other part that I don't want distressed. So yep, I'm just going in and wetting that down until I get to that black paint. And then I take a dry cloth, because sometimes it makes a little cloudy gray, and then just dab it off. And it's just, I just want to see some of these details on this beautiful beadwork that I re-glued on. And then to tie this distressing all together, I'm just going to take that same wet wipe and I'm going to go along any of these sharp edges, especially around this rim, and I'm going to show some of that black. That way it'll tie that all together. So now I'm going to go ahead and seal all these pieces in using the Rust-Oleum clear coat in the matte finish. And then after that clear coat is dry, I always like to finish them up using some Varathane finishing wax that just is one more extra level of protection. Now that Mod Podge is dry on this tray, I can go in with the X-Acto knife, and I'm using this metal spatula to help hold that so I'm not pulling it away and it's not tearing. And then I'll go ahead and the same thing with the tray. I'll go in with the Rust-Oleum clear coat, and then after that's dry, finish it up with some Varathane finishing wax. We just really like to protect our products with some good top coats. Around the home stretch, there's just a few little bit more details to finish up here. So I've got that little chicken wire, chicken vase, and so I'm going in with some Waverly white wax, and I'm just going to brush it on. That way it's going to kind of tone down this elephant gray paint. It's going to make it look a little bit more cementy, and it's actually going to really bring out the details. So yep, I'm just going to brush it on, and then I'm going to take a rag and then wipe the excess off. So after I got these little birdie cages sprayed with that clear coat, I just thought, I still want a little bit of distressing on the birds and maybe a little bit down the side. So just going in with some sandpaper and just getting down to a little bit of that black, just a little bit of weed distressing, and then I'll just wipe on some of that Varathane finishing wax to seal that in. So I have a couple of these succulents in my greenery stash that I just definitely think I can put that in that fold-up holder. It'll kind of be nice to have that pop of green. It dangles, but so I'm going to be having to cut this stem off, so you're going to need some good nippers. That way it fits right into that little votive holder. It dangles down, and I just absolutely love that pop of green with that white. So now we're down to our last project, and I've got that Dollar Tree basket that I picked up. I don't think I showed you that in what I had purchased. So yep, I did get one of these baskets, though I'm not a fan of whatever these handles are. And then I have a thrifted plant stand, and I absolutely, there's something about a basket riser that sells for me, just lifting it off the floor. So first off, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to cut these handles. As you see, yeah, they're not the best condition, so I'm going to cut these off first. So it will be a sad day when I eventually run out of this black thrifted wire that I thrifted for 50 cents at the Bibles for Mission thrift store. So it has actually come in very handy for lots of projects that I've used it for. So I might have to go searching for when I finally run out of some. So all I'm going to do is cut 3 strands of this that I can tie the bottom of this plant stand and run it through the the bottom portion of that basket to tie the two together. So it has those 3 legs, it has that area right in here, and then I'm going to make sure that I get it nice and secure by wrapping it around that base very well, making sure that I'm weaving it, that it's going straight up. And then I will go from the inside and take some needle nose pliers and twist it so that it's nice and taut and tight, and then I will go in and clip off that excess and then roll that tip down so there's not any sharp points.
So what did you think, guys? I showed you the shelves, I showed you what I brought home, and how I made everything over. Kind of probably ended up being longer than you probably wanted, and how many just quit. But anyway, so I'm glad that I shared the process, my thought process of what I was looking for in the stores, why I passed stuff up, why I didn't pick up stuff, and then what I did do stuff, what I thought that would resell here locally, what I could make over, what I had a vision for, was it worth my time, my effort, the money that I had to put into it for a resale price. So with Goodwill prices going up, and then I don't buy from a wholesale, I don't, but I think their prices are actually about the same, if not more now, when it comes to wholesale. I'm not really sure because I've never really looked into it. But anyway, I was happy to find 66% clearance at Hobby Lobby. I was so excited that I thought it would be all gone, because when I was hearing about it, it was like 2 weeks later. And then being able to pop in a couple Dollar Generals and finding some more stuff that I had some vision for. So I was just super excited. So thank you for watching today's video, guys. And I hope I have inspired you in any way to look at Dollar General finds and clearance items finds in any way. Just, yeah, check them out. See if you have a vision for it, and you think there's a market for making money on it, why not? We all need inventory if you're a reseller, or maybe it's something that you're like, well, I like the design of this, but I don't like the color of it. Hey, see, it's now can be at your home, and you can, there's just that sense of accomplishment. It's nice to just buy something to put it in your home, but there's also a sense of accomplishment of painting it and making it your own. So thanks for watching, guys. And if I have inspired you in any way, let me know. And if you like this kind of content and you're checking us out for the first time, would you like to become part of our YouTube family? Just hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know when we uploaded a new video. And as always, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.